The next thing I want to talk about, chat, is this. Capcom versus SNK. Potentially 3. Huh, wow, okay, right? Like, as soon as I saw this, like, bubble, I was like, wait, y'all fucking playing with me here, right? Twitter is, like, fucking up with my brain. You mean to tell me that, like, we could get Capcom versus SNK, coming back? Holy shit. I want to see what this, like, article is, right? Who has spearheaded SNK's fighting game revival in recent years, directed KOF 15, produced Samurai Showdown, plus this year's KOF 15, now suggested a new installment in the crossover series could finally be feasible, right? He said it could be finally feasible. Oda referenced collaborative promotional posters, which were released at this month's 2022 EVO tournament, featuring artwork from both SNK and Capcom games. Nostalgia merch was well received by fans, and Oda told VGS it reconfirmed the public's huge interest in a potential SNK versus Capcom crossover. Yes, so the whole context behind that, chat, is that during EVO, I'll get to that message in a bit, Arrow. EVO, you know, the typical, like, annual fighting game round tournament that is the major hotspot for every fighting game competitor out there. Not only is there competition there, but there's also, like, venues there, there's also, like, art exhibitions there, there's also, like, merch that you can, like, buy and, like, show off. There was a booth where interesting portraits were being shown off, and you could, like, get, like, an autograph from guys like Shinkiro, and it has something like this. You have Shinkiro art style of Capcom characters versus SNK characters, right? And everybody saw that this is like a revival of Capcom versus SNK. Like, no shit. There was like a Twitter hashtag of like either Capcom or SNK, or maybe of the two, that it had just like this like glorious art style, and the people who were running the booth was like, okay, you can come over here, we can get like a signature done on this like poster, and like, you know, just be like a champ. And there you see my boys at Capcom. I think these are like the two that are running Street Fighter now, and we have like Oda over here and his translator Joshua Weatherfield. Or maybe this is like Khaiza Wave. But yeah, it like sparked a huge ass thing of like, please let there be a Capcom versus SNK. Do it. Like, you got like Luke and Manat with like new Shermie, Rugal. You get like Isla versus Cammy, Ryu, and Ryo. Oh my god, like, there's something going on, right? And because of that like little stunt, Ono did say that, like, you know, there was a huge positive reception for Capcom and SNK, for Capcom versus SNK to actually become a thing. And he was later asked in here by Video Games Chronicle, he was asked if he was interested in creating a new SNK versus Capcom, and Oda said, definitely in the future. That's something I think everybody on all sides in both parties are interested in making a reality. Holy fuck, this is just like mind-blowing right now. Like, we could potentially see a Capcom versus SNK like 3, or like, well, maybe like a remake. That's a little bit of a far stretch, but a 3? Holy crap! Especially after we saw the reaction to the EVO posters, it helped us reconfirm that that is probably one of the most wanted things from the fighting game community across the entire world, right? Obviously, because, you know, there have been many Capcom versus SNK. The original, there's CVS Chaos, one of the underwhelming ones. Then, of course, there's the goated one, which is Capcom versus SNK 2. Capcom versus SNK 2, you know, just like, not only was it a favorite amongst Capcom fans, but also SNK fans who played the old school KOF games and all that jazz, right? CVS2 was the most popular one. However, there was a little bit of history with SNK, right? For those that don't know, SNK at that time of CVS2 was pitching for games like the Neo Geo Pocket Home Edition or like something like that. SNK went under bankruptcy, right? They were like in bad times and under bad weather, and it only took them like until 2010-ish for them to, you know, finally come back with like a new huff and puff steam. And so SNK has been like doing good, and there's also been like rumors that like Capcom wasn't like giving them enough because of their high and mighty Capcomness. SNK has been putting their characters in other fighting games like Tekken and Capcom. Well, I don't know about like Street Fighter, but you know, there was like speculation that like before Luke came out in Street Fighter V, Terry Bogard was going to be like the final character for Street Fighter V, but it eventually became Luke. But everybody thought it was going to be like a crossover from SNK and have like Terry Bogard be a final character, but it eventually didn't turn out to be. But then again, we do have like Smash, and we see like Capcom versus SNK like in a different limelight. I settle for a compilation of re-releases of the versus games with CVS2 and the others included. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I would love to see like an HD remaster of like all the old school Capcom versus fighting games, right? Not just like Marvel. Well, Marvel, like I always like 100% hope for, but dude, can you imagine like the hype reception for like fucking a CVS collection or a Marvel collection? That would be pretty dope. Both companies would like win, right? It's only like, you know, I feel a matter of time because everybody is like clamoring for like a new Marvel game or like a new CVS game. Both parties are very eager to like, you know, bring their fighting games, you know, with a new like huff and a puff of steam, right? They feel like they're confident. SNK is like getting their pop-off moments, right? With Garo, with King of Fighters 15, with Samurai Showdown, right? With new legs, right? They definitely are like just treading on a positive road, and they are doing pretty good, right? Congrats to like SNK, and they want to like do more. They are understanding of like fan feedback and all that jazz, and they want to have a CVS2. The only thing is that will Capcom allow it? And from what it said, and from what we can pretty much gather from this like interview, is that Capcom is okay with it, right? They do want to like make a game with SNK characters, and they want to like, you know, bring back their fighting games. Like I said many times before, Capcom is also in their pop-off period, right? You know, not just in single player, multiplayer games like Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, and all that jazz. They're slowly like reviving their fighting game division with, you know, Capcom Fighting Collection and of course Street Fighter 6. Like the positive reception for SF6 is huge. Like no one can like argue that, like, you know, okay, Street Fighter 6 looks awesome, looks amazing, characters look really sick, right? There's gonna be good online, the drive system is hella intuitive, right? It's a good like pave way for Capcom to like, alright, this is like their Cap God comeback now. Yeah, like I feel like Capcom versus SNK is likely feasible because Capcom and SNK have like good connections again, so they could definitely do it. And of course, this is more feasible than like, let's say a Marvel 4 or like a Marvel vs. Capcom 4. As much as I love team-based fighting games, as much as I love Marvel style games, and the chat can pretty much agree with me in saying this in that line, and of course in the following sentence, Marvel vs. Capcom 4 I don't feel like is not going to happen. And of course I've had this in the past with like dudes that would like come into the channel or like come into like a YouTube channel, come into my YouTube channel, or like comment down, when's Marvel? Either by like joking or like they're serious, and I'd just like answer back, it's not gonna happen. right? Like, I don't think Marvel versus Capcom is not going to be a thing because, you know, Marvel's got that big dick energy because of like their Marvel shows, right? They do have cute references in here and there for like Capcom game from like Capcom itself. They're just prioritizing on like the Marvel Games division, like Spider-Man, Wolverine, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though those games are good, like they are good, and of course there are other games like Ultimate Alliance and Midnight Suns, right? Which is like that, which is like you fight like the spawns of Satan. I don't think they are going to be doing a Marvel vs. Capcom because they want to focus on like other things rather than like a fighting game. It pretty much is like the fault of MVC Infinite. MVC Infinite was like a really like fleshed out game in terms of like gameplay, but it did horrible in like, you know, when it came out because roster, all that stuff. MVCI is a whole other story in general, but the point for MVCI is that it pretty much cemented like any chance of like a Marvel vs. Capcom game ever again. There was a lot of complications in that game, right? There was a lot of like corporate sleazebagness, I feel. And I feel like it's not like Capcom's fault. Partly some of it is with like their characters, but mostly it's just with like Marvel and Disney. Like they were trying to market like the MCU so hard that they forgot what made Marvel vs. Capcom so like freaking unique. And that was with like the characters. It's not just Marvel characters, it's also like everything Marvel, and of course the Capcom characters. We won't get like a Marvel vs. Capcom game anytime in the future, but a Capcom vs. SNK, most likely. Both companies are pretty much, you know, doing fine, and SNK, you know, being like the people's champion of like adding their characters into other things. And of course, the recipient back, like we have like, you know, Baiken in Samurai Showdown from Arc System Works. You know, we have like Terry in Fighting EX Layer. There's like Geese in Tekken, which Harada agreed on, right? Like, God damn, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely nutty that like SNK is like, you know, is doing so well. But of course, you know, it's feasible, but there are like some things that really have to be taken into account, right? Of course, like it's 20 years, right? It's been 20 years since like we've seen a Capcom vs. SNK game. Definitely too long. We'll try to get it done in 10, said Oda, optimistically. Although Oda claimed no serious conversations have taken place, there have been noises from Capcom suggesting that interest in the new collaboration exists. Last year, Capcom vs. SNK director Hideaki Itsuno told Polygon he would love to do one day make a third game, but unfortunately, right, Itsuno is also the Devil May Cry director and is also the director for the Dragon's Dogma games, right? And just recently, we had a Dragon's Dogma stream that, oh, Itsuno is coming back into Dragon's Dogma. The new Dragon's Dogma game is going to be in development. Check out this t-shirt. I'll see you later. Yeah, and he's going to be making a future Dragon's Dogma game. Itsuno was the director for CVS3, so he can't possibly handle like two projects in one. Otherwise, you know, one's going to be like not as good than the other, or both are terribly bad. So you have to make like some tough calls. Imagine like the possibility of getting like a Capcom vs. SNK 3, right? That shit is like so hyped and so dope. And of course it's a feasible thing, right? We could potentially see a Capcom vs. SNK more so than a Marvel 3. But of course there are like, you know, hindrances in the wall. There are like things that we have to like take into account. We can't do this without that, all that stuff, right? I would love there to be like a Capcom vs. SNK 3, but I don't want to sound like I'm not diminishing anybody's hopes, but it can probably will, maybe if it's like run by SNK, but I don't know about Capcom. But you know, like, I feel like Capcom will get into like fighting games again if Street Fighter 6 does well, right? Like, I need the collective energy for everybody to like buy SF6 on like day one and just like push Capcom to like make more fighting games, right? Because like I said, Capcom is in like their high period, right? Everybody's liking Street Fighter 6. Everybody has positive impressions of Street Fighter 6. So we just need like a collective amount of spiritual energy to get people to buy Street Fighter, and if there's like enough sales sold, if there's like a lot of more positive reception after release of Street Fighter 6, then we can get more games like CVS3, hopefully, as long as like Itsuno's done with Dragon's Dogma 3. But yeah, like, if we can get like Street Fighter 6 to actually like do well, then, you know, it's gonna be a great time for fighting game fans. We'll be like fed really good, right? Capcom is on that verge of like coming back, and we'll possibly see more. Yeah, just like, I hope for like more crossover games to come back. I hope for a Marvel game to like come back, but optimistically, but you know, practically it's not gonna happen. You know. But anyway, yeah, that's like the things that I like want to like talk about, you know.